Dear students, today we shall be talking about the shell in case of mollusca. Before proceeding, it is my request to you all to like and subscribe my channel BioLearnia and press the bell icon for the latest updates. God has gifted mollusks with variety of the shells of different composition, the shells of different coloration, and the shells of different types. There is huge diversity in the nature and the form of the shells. We all know that the word mollusca is derived from the word mollis, which means soft-bodied. And the mollusks are provided with these shells as a defense mechanism to evade from the predators. And another thing is that most of the mollusks have a shell in the part of the life cycle or all through the life cycle. The shell can be minute or the shell can cover the whole body. There are certain mollusks who don't bear the shell, such as the most of the octopuses. But some of the mollusks such as sepia, loligo, they bear internal shells in the form of the bone. We call that very as the cuttle bone or the pen. Here in this very picture, you are able to see that how much variety of the shells are present. They can be conical, they are little bit spherical, they are very much elongated, they can be flat, they can be univalve, that is having only one valve, or they can be bivalved. So we do have the variety of the shells in the mollusca. Today we shall be talking about the shell, its composition and the types. So for example, we do have the Polyplacophora. It comprises of the 8 plates which are joined together. This is the form in the case of the Neominiomorpha. Here the shell looks quite different in the case of Monoplacophora. Here the Chaetoderma is altogether different. The bivalvia represents the shell which is two-valved. Similarly, all the gastropods bear the shells of different colors, of different sizes and shapes. Then we do have the Scaphopoda, which we call them as the tusk shells. We do have the Cephalopoda. Therein the shell can be minute or shell can be altogether absent in the higher stages. When we talk about the shell of the phylum Mollusca, the shell is one of the most important diagnostic feature. It has previously been employed as a basis for the classification. So, because it has very much importance in the classification, and many times the molluscans were classified on the basis of the type of the shell. So, like all other structures, the shell also exhibits wide variation in different mollusks, and it is present in almost all the members of the mollusca, which varies greatly in disposition. Now talking about the shell in the case of the phylum Mollusca, the shell may be present outside the body. It can be present outside the body, such as in the case of the gastropoda. या तो ये shell जो है body के बाहर मौजूद होता है, जैसे कि गैस्ट्रोपोड्स में, बाइवॉल्व्स में और काइटोन में. मगर बहुत सारे मुलस्क में ये इंटरनल भी होता है, जैसे कि कुछ गैस्ट्रोपोड्स में और बहुत सारे सेफेलोपोड्स में. जैसे कि मैंने अभी आपसे आपको एग्जांपल बताई कि जैसे स्क्विड है, हमारे पास कटल फिश है, या हमारे पास लोलिगो है, तो उनमें शेल जो होता है वो इंटरनल होता है. There are certain transitional stage where the shell is partly internal or partly external. So in some cases, in some of the animals, the shell can be partly internal and partly external. And this very condition, this is very important condition which is found in the case of the Haemphilia and Netticidae. This is the example of the Haemphilia, wherein the shell is external as well as the internal. We call such a shell as the transitional stage, bearing both the characters, that is external as well as the internal. And this is the example of the Netticidae. We call it this as the moon snail. Here also the shell is quite external as well as internal. In cephalopods and the nudibranchia, the shell is absent in adult stage. In those very forms, the shell is not present in the adult stage. So in the case of cephalopods and nudibranchia, shell is absent in the adult stage. Now we shall be talking about the types of the shell, कि shell होते कितनी तरह के हैं. तो ऐसे हम अगर बिल्कुल आम मानों में जाने तो हमारे पास दो इंपॉर्टेंट तरह के शेल्स हम दो हिस्सों में डिवाइड करते हैं उनको. एक तो यूनिवॉल्व और बाइवॉल्व. मगर इसके साथ ही हमें एक और कंडीशन देखने को मिलती है जो प्लेटेड कंडीशन होती है. जैसे कि हमारे पास काइटोन की एक कंडीशन है जहां पर ये जो ऑर्गेनिज्म है काइटोन, ये 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 प्लेट्स का जो शेल होती है वो 8 प्लेट्स की होती है. हम इस तरह के शेल को, ये जो अब मैं यहां आपको दिखाने जा रहा हूं, इस तरह के शेल को हम यूनिवॉल्व कहते हैं. Majority of the mollusks, they possess the univalve shell, and the rest, they possess the bivalve shell, and some have the 8 plates, such as in the case of the chiton. Now univalves have the one shell and the bivalves have two shell. Bivalve shell is part of the body, the exoskeleton or shell of the bivalve mollusk. So in life, the shell of this class mollusk is composed of two hinged parts. So we do have the two hinged parts, that is just they are connected on one side, and this is one part and this is another part. They open and they get closed just like the hinge. जैसे कि दरवाजे का कब्जा होता है, जिस तरह वो खुलते और बंद होते हैं, खुलते और बंद होते हैं, तो उसी तरह ये भी काम करते हैं. Let us little bit elaborate that what the univalve shell is. Normally the univalve shell is elongated cone. It is just like an elongated cone. ये elongated cone की तरह होता है, which becomes twisted into spiral round axis. So it has a axis, as I was telling you last time as well, that there is a twist, there is a whirl. So these very cones, they get twisted and they become spiral, and if the shell is made up of only one shell is single, we call this very shell as the univalve shell. The shell was originally a simple cone, but due to increase in the size of the visceral hump, the shell became twisted to accommodate whole of the visceral organs. So because of the torsion, so because of the increase in the size of the visceral hump, the shell became twisted so that it can accommodate more and more visceral organs. So that is why this very, you can say, twist can be seen in the case of the univalve shell. In some cases, the shell, instead of forming the elongated spire, so it is not, many times it is not elongated like this, it is not elongated, but many times it is a flattened spire, as in the case of the polygrantia. So as in the case of the polygrantia, we can see here in this very diagram, we can see here that it has a flattened spire. So whatever twist is there, whatsoever it is whirl it has, it is not elongated but it is a flattened one, and that is seen in the case of the polygrantia. Then another that is the globular spire, that is seen in the case of the pila, wherein it is not very much elongated but it is little bit globular. So that very case is seen in the case of the pila. So amongst the cephalopods, the shell varies in form. It may be simple, as in the case of squids. So in the case of squids, it can be simple, it can be flattened spire as in the case of Polygrantia, or it can be globular spire as in the case of the phyla. So in other forms, it is usually spiral and chambered. So in many forms, it has also been seen that in many cases it is usually spiral and many times it is chambered. Now, what are these very chambered? So these are the chambers, that is, and the chambers are seen in the case of this very, you can say, shell. So the shell of the spirula. So this is the shell of the spirula. Um, and the shell of the nautilus, this is the nautilus. So this is the nautilus. Here we see that this is the nautilus and this is the spirula. So in the case of these very two, that is the spirula and nautilus, they are the typical representatives of the spiral and the chambered shells. So in spirula, what happens? The shell is spirally twisted. So what we are seeing here, that the shell is spirally twisted and but do not touch. No, what you are now, I'm just showing you in the form of the yellow ink. So what you see here, that they do not touch one another. So there is a gap. You see that there is a gap in the twist, that they never, these very twist, they never touch, but there is a gap. And internally, what we see, that internally it is hollow and it is chambered, like that in the case of the nautilus. So in the case of spirula, the shell is spirally twisted, but the spirals do not touch. And internally, they are chambered, just in the case of the nautilus. So internally, as in the case of nautilus, they are chambered, but externally in the case of spirula, they do not touch one another. So the relation of the soft parts with reference to the shell differs in the spirula and nautilus. So they have a differentiation. उनमें फर्क है. The shell in the spirula shows endogastric curvature, but in the nautilus, it is exogastric. So what we see, that in the case of spirula, we usually see that it has the endogastric curvature, but in the case of nautilus, it is the exogastric curvature. Now, in the spirula, the shell is internally placed and remains covered completely by the mantle. So what we see in the case of the spirula, that it remains completely covered by the mantle. The shell of the extinct Ammonidia is more or less similar to that of the nautilus. So nautilus resembles to extinct Ammonidia. But when we talk about the octopus, they lack shell except a pair of the small vestiges. Female Argonauta, this very Argonauta is we call them as the pelagic octopus. Most of the pelagic octopus, they belong to the Argonauta. So in female Argonauta, an external thin shell is present and it is delicately coiled and it is not chambered. So in the case of the female Argonauta, the shell is very thin and it is not chambered, but it is many times it is chambered as in the case of the nautilus. So in different mollusks, what we see considerable modification of the spiral, you can say, in their spiral nature. Usually the spire is more or less obliquely coiled around the axis. So if we think that this is the axis, so they are more or less obliquely coiled. So now this is the coiling which makes them the dextral, or which makes them the sinistral. So let us have a little bit idea that two types of spirals they are seen in the case of they are encountered in the case of the mollusca. One we call it as the dextral. So one we call it as the dextral. So this is the dextral one. Now, what is the dextral? So when we talk about these very dextral shells, most of the univalve shells, the spiral is dextral, which means that the spiral is right-handed around the axis. So when the spiral is right-handed around the axis, when it is right-handed around the axis, so we call it as when it is right-handed, we call it as the dextral. So when it is left-handed, we call it as the sinistral. This is the difference, that towards which side they turn. If they turn toward the right side, we call it as the dextral. If they turn toward the left, round the left hand axis, we call it as a sinistral. So talking about the sinistral type of the shell, so this type of the spiral does not occur commonly. This condition is just reverse to that of the dextral form. That is, here in this very case, what we see that the spiral is left-handed. So in the case of sinistral shell, the spiral is left-handed, whereas in the case, so what we see here in this very case, the spiral is left-handed. So this is sinistral. So in this very case, what we see that the spiral is right-handed. So this is the dextral. So, but you have to keep in mind that it is not always that the sinistral type of the shell can be regarded as the normal, but it depends upon species to species. In some species, the sinistral is normal and dextral is rare, but in some species, dextral is normal and the sinistral is rare. So it depends from the species to species. So in cases where the sinistral monostrosity, or in which the sinistral or the dextral forms, they are interchangeable, the internal organs also become affected in relation to such coiling. So कहने का मतलब यह है कि जिस तरह की कॉइलिंग देखने को मिलती है हमें मुलस्क में, अगर उसमें सिनिस्ट्रल कॉइलिंग देखने को मिलती है तो उनके विसरल ऑर्गन्स भी उसी तरह से ट्विस्ट हो जाते हैं और उसी तरह से उसमें एकोमोडेट हो जाते हैं, ताकि वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा जगह एकोमोडेट कर सकें. Then what we see, the direction of the spiral does not show uniformity in most of the cases. And in some cases, the sinistral type of the shell in the embryonic stage, that is converted into the dextral type in the case of adults. So it is not, you can say that uniform kind of the twisting. In many cases, what we see that if the sinistral type of the shell, it is seen in the case of the embryonic stage, but it gets converted into the dextral type in the case of the adults. So abnormal growth of the shell occurs in nature as well and varies from the simple to complex. And in some cases, the abnormality reaches the peak and may change the entire, you can say, normal organization of the creature. Now let us have a little bit idea about the composition of the shell. Now, what is the main composition of the shell? The main material constitute of the shell is carbonate of the lime. Traces. Now, one thing is carbonate of the lime and other is phosphate of the lime and certain organic bases. So, number one is carbonate of the lime, then phosphate of the lime and organic base. Now, what is the main organic base? It is conchiolin, and it is chemically just very much similar to the chitin, which is present in the case of the molluscan shell. But in addition to these three, it is not that only these three are present. The carbonates of the magnesium and the traces of the silica. So what does it mean? It means magnesium and silica, carbonates of magnesium and silica, they also constitute, you can say, they are also detected. And this very conchiolin, what I was talking about, this very conchiolin, it constitutes a sort of the membranous framework for the shell. So it is the conchiolin which forms the membranous framework for the shell. And it is generally regarded that the shell has two parts. So now, what are those very two parts? One, we regard it as the cellular part, and other we regard it as the membranous part. So we should be knowing that generally the shell has two parts. One is cellular part and other we call it as the membranous part. So we were talking about the shell is made up of the cellular structure and the membranous part, where the cellular, but we have to keep in mind the cellular structure, it is very rare. But the membranous part, it constitutes the sole material basis. So it means that the cellular structure is less and the membranous part is more. And the membranous part, it was once a part of the mantle. So this very membranous part was once a part of the mantle. But when we see that the majority of the gastropods, they possess the porcelaneous shell. And this very porcelaneous shell, it consists of the three layers. It consists of the three layers, and each of which are formed of the plates. So talking about these very plates, when we talk about just like that, they are in the form of the plates, one plate or second plate and the third plate. But what is important in these very plates, it is the orientation which is important in these plates. Now what we see in the case of the middle layer, that the cells, they are the, or you can say the plates are transversely arranged, but in the case of the outer and the inner shell, they are longitudinally arranged. So in the case of bivalves, the nature of the formation and deposition of the layers, that is similar to that of the gastropods. what we see here in this very figure, we see that this is the basement membrane. Here in this very picture, what we see, let us have a little bit introduction, that this is the basement membrane here, and these are the vacuoles which are present here. And the important one, that this is the longitudinal muscle layer, this is the oblique muscle layer, this is the circular muscle layer, this is the ciliated epidermal cells, this is the cuticle here, these are the cilia, and these are the mucocytes, and along with it the eosinophilous cells, subepidermal gland cells, they are also seen when we see the section of the shell, So how this very shell is formed, let us have a little bit of the idea that how the shell is formed. There are different opinions. There are different opinions with regard to the different workers who have worked to know that how the shells are formed in the case of the mollusca. But the opinions differ with regard to the formation of the shell. Now there is one opinion with regard to Bowerbank and Carpenter. What they have the opinion, that they advocate that the formation of the shell is an organic process. So they believe that the formation of shell is an organic process, and it grows in the same manner as that of the teeth and the bones of the higher animals. So Bowerbank and the Carpenter, they are of the opinion that it is a simple organic process and it grows in the same manner as the teeth and the bones of the higher vertebrates. But the workers such as the modern workers such as Reumer and Isig, they hold that the shell is the byproduct of the excretion and is deposited like cuticle of the arthropods. So on one hand, Bower and Bank says that this is the organic process, and the shells are formed in the similar manner as that of the teeth and the bones of the higher organisms. But there are another workers such as Reumer and the Isig. They believe that the shell is a byproduct of the excretion, and it is formed by the deposition as a byproduct of the excretion, just like that of the cuticle in the case of the arthropods. And the shell is formed by the large number of the calcareous plates as well, which are held together by some kind of the glue. So what is their opinion, that the shells are made up of the large number of the calcareous particles which are held together by a kind of the glue. The shell is formed from the margin of the mantle. So one more important thing is that shell is formed from the margin of the mantle, and the margin of the mantle is the main source of the deposition of the shell matter. So it is the margin of the mantle which adds to the deposition of the substances which make the shell, and the rest of the mantle helps to thicken the innermost layer. So it is the outermost layer which keeps on depositing to the shell material, and rest of the mantle it only helps to thicken the innermost layer. And the shell depositing cells, we were talking about the shell depositing cells, they are present in the all parts of the mantle. The carbonate of the lime from the circulating blood is separated by the epithelial cells of the mantle edge. So the carbonate of the lime, so important one is the carbonate of the lime, which which is taken from the circulating blood, and it is separated by the epithelial cells of the mantle edge, which is used in the shell formation. The carbonate of the lime, it assumes in the case of the molluscans, the carbonate of the lime, we have another part as well. It assumes the granular and the crystalline forms, and it becomes hard on exposure. So one more is the carbonate of the lime, which assumes the granular or the crystalline form, and later on it becomes hard due to exposure. And the shell matter in some cases may be deposited by the foot also. Many times foot also helps in the deposition of the shell matter. And the deposition of the shell matter, it is not a continuous process, but it shows periodicity, which is manifested by the lines of the growth. So what we see that in many organisms, we do check the growth of the organisms by the annual rings, or we see certain growth checks, or we see the lines which clearly demarcate that how much animal has grown or what is the age of the animal. So many times this very deposition of the shell matters, it is continuous process, but many times it also shows the periodicity which is manifested by the lines of the growth. So in certain phases the growth is fast, but at certain point the growth slows down, and that leads to the formation of these very, you can say, lines or lines of the growth. Now we maybe talking about there are a variety of the shells. We do have the shells which are in the form of the chiton, that is 8 plated. We do have the shells in the form of the dentalium, which are elephant tusks. We do have the cypria, this cypria. We do have the mytilus in the form of the mytilus. We do have the shells in the form of the sepia, or we call it as the cuttle bone. Now, first of all, talking one by one, that if we talk about these very chitons, now let us I'm be using the blue one. So when we talk about the chitons, they have a shell composed of 8 separate plates, as I told you, and we call them as the plates or the walls. So these plates overlap slightly at the front and back edges. They just slightly overlap on the front and the back edges, and here, such as here, 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 and they articulate well with one another. Because of this, these very shell provide protection at the same time as permitting the chiton to flex upward. So these are just like you can say that it helps in articulation, it helps in the movement. This very overlapping, it provides protection at the same time and permits the chiton to flex upward when it is needed for the locomotion, or even surfaces, and you can say even allows the animal to curl up into the ball when dislodged from the rocks. So the shell plates are encircled by a skirt known as the girdle as well. So this very articulation, this very overlapping, it helps in the movement in the case of the you can say chiton. Let us talk about this very dentalium. I may be using the yellow color. So if we talk about this very dentalium, the shells are very much conical, what we see here, and many times they are curved in a plany spiral way, and they are usually whitish in color. And because of these very characteristic features, the shell somewhat resembles a miniature elephant tusk. So they are hollow and open at both the ends. On both the ends we see that they are hollow, from this very side also and from this very side as well. The opening at the larger end It is the main or the anterior aperture. So this very larger side we call it as the anterior aperture, and this very side we call it as the posterior aperture. The smaller opening, it is known as the apical aperture. So we do have the anterior aperture on this very side, we do have the anterior aperture on this very side, and we do have the apical aperture on this very side. Now talking about this very cypria, we may be talking about these very organisms, cypria. And they have the adult shells which are very much rounded, and almost they look like an egg, and they do not look like in any form, they look like a typical gastropod shell. And virtually when we talk about these very species, they belong to Cypridae, and these very shells are extremely smooth and shiny. And many a times when you must have gone to the beaches, or you must have gone to the states which are near the seashore, where there you will purchase them or buy them for the decoration purpose as well. They are easily available in the markets, and we can purchase them for the aquarium, for the decoration purpose in our drawing rooms or in the aquarium as well. So this is because they are very smooth and shiny. This is because in these very living animals, the shell is nearly always fully covered with the mantle. So these very animals, they are fully covered by the mantle, and typically we don't see any spire in the adult, and there is a long narrow aperture which is lined with the teeth. So what we see here in long narrow aperture we see here, and which we see that they are lined by the teeth, like you can say teeth like teeth like pleats. Now, many times we also know by the name of the Codis. Codis, we also know by the name of them. Then we do have the Mytilus. So this is the Mytilus here. This one is Mytilus. So they consist of a right and the left half of the shell. So they have a right shell, they do have the this one part, one shell is this and other is this one. So they do have the right and the left one. So it means that they have the two shells which are just together uh, with elastic lock strap, or we also call it as a ligament. So the shell is made up of three layers, and the top layer, it is organic, we call it as the periostracum, we call it as the periostracum, and the middle thick layer of the lime, we call it as the ostracum, and the innermost valuable silver white shiny mother of the pearl layer, it is called hypostracum. So in the case of this very Mytilus, we see that the shell is made up of three layers. The top layer of the organic material, which we call it as the periostracum, the middle thick layer, we call it as the ostracum, and the innermost valuable silver, shiny, and the mother of the pearl layer, which we call it as the hypostracum. So in the shell of the mussel, there are two gills which there are two gills. So yeah, we do find that in these very organisms two gills are seen which well supply the blood, or which well oxygenate the blood. Then the third one, we do have the sepia. So in the case of sepia, we see that it is also called as the cuttlefish, and it possesses internal structure. So in this very case, the bone which we see here in this very case, it is the bone which is not external but it is internal. So we also call it as the cuttle bone. It is porous and it is made up of aragonite. So the pores which provide it buoyancy, and the cuttlefish regulates by changing the gas to liquid ratio. So in this very case, what we see Otherwise, it will be difficult for the organism to flow and swim in a very fast manner and in a controlled manner. So what does this very animal do? That it just maintains and it regulates its gas to liquid ratio so that it can control the buoyancy. So in these very chambers, it controls the gas to liquid ratio via ventral spicule. We also called as the sphincter. So each species cuttlebone, it is distinct in shape, size, and pattern of the ridges or the texture. So the cuttlebone is unique to cuttlefish and is one of the important features that distinguishes from their squid relatives. So this was all about the shells, the type of the shells, the composition of the shells, the variety of the shells. So that is all for today. Next time we shall be dealing with another topic, that is coloration in mollusca. It is again my request to you all to like and subscribe my channel BioLearnia and press the bell icon for the latest updates. Thank you very much.